We don't call it canine nutrition, we call it orthomolecular canine nutrition.
What is the most common mistakes pet parents make with their dog's diet?
If your dog is healthy, your dog will be happy.
And she's like, I'm actually a canine nutritionist, and I'm like, a canine what?
The animal-human conflict happens when the dog is unhealthy. Don't we all get crabby when we are sick?
Now that we've said turmeric, let's debunk some myths, please.
Can I say something to the Indian public today? There is no organization that has laid any standards down for pet food in India.
Is canine nutrition separate from veterinary knowledge?
Ensure your dog lives to be 12 to 15 years, or would you want to save 25%?
तुम्हें जो बड़ा मजा आ रहा है रिंगा रिंगा रोज ही
Vegetarian proteins are slow release proteins.
How are pet parents going to keep track of all of this?
What we categorize as the dinks and the dills, right? Being a pet parent, you need to be a different breed of a human. The dog food market, just the food, was about 3,500 crores in 2022, will be about 6,500, 7,000 crores in 27. It's in double digits. So
This is the good life, Scotty
that's
boy.
the good life. Read the label. Read the label. Read the label.
I'm guessing everyone watching this is probably going to go and look at the dog food packaging in their house.
Mulberry bush. Three types of pet parents. The discerning pet parent, pseudo pet parents, adoptive pet parents.
Welcome to Four Legs, Two Mics. I'm Shivani Mathur. Today we have a very interesting person with us on the podcast. He wears lots of hats. He's a chef. He's worked in the hotel space. He's worked in Kingfisher. He started his own dog food brand called Harley's Corner, and his name is Ishmeet. And hi, Ishmeet. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Shivani. Thank you for having me.
Happy to have you. You're
Anything for the dogs.
wonderful. So, Ishmeet, tell me, how did you get into canine nutrition?
So it all started because of Harley, right, who walks with me every day. And he adopted me from a construction site near my office. And I took him home, right? And as a first-time pet parent, I did the normal rituals of going to the veterinarians and pet shops and was told, buy this, buy that, blah, blah, blah. And I started feeding him kibble.
Yeah.
Now, I am half Sikh, half Parsi. My mom was a Parsi, father was a Sikh. And for us, food is a very important part of life, right?
Yes.
And again, from the industry, with the background that I had, food's always been an event at home, right? And it's never been that we'd eat the same food, twice or thrice. I mean, every day something's different.
Yeah.
So when I would eat food, I'd see Harley sit at the table and, beg for table scraps. And I knew that, I knew that much at least that I'm not supposed to feed him the food we eat. But it got me thinking, saying that if I'm eating different food every day, why is he stuck with that one kibble throughout?
Yeah.
So I started reading up about dog food. I went online, I found some recipes, and I tried cooking for him. And the moment I cooked for him, he stopped eating the kibble. He just refused to touch the kibble, right? So that was great. So I thought, okay, that's an awesome thing I'm doing. And I kept cooking food for him. And about 3 or 4 months later, I noticed that he had lost weight. He looked much thinner and all. And I thought perhaps that, while I'm excited about cooking food for him, maybe I'm not giving him the right nutrition.
Yeah.
So I took him to the vet that we kind of frequented. And I said, he said, what's wrong with Harley? I said, assume you don't know Harley.
Yeah.
Just do a full physical on this dog and tell me how, in what health is he in, right? Is he good health? Is he whatever?
Yeah.
So he said, he's fine. What's your worry? So I said, no, I've changed his diet. I'm giving him food I cook at home. He's lost weight. When I look at him from the top, I can see the last 2 ribs. I can see, his stomach has gone in. When I look at him at the side, he looks more like a bird, the curved in thing. And I feel I'm not probably giving him enough nutrition.
Yeah.
So he says, what you've done is you've got Harley into shape. Okay. So he's saying he's in perfect physical shape, right? So whatever you're doing, continue it.
Okay.
That's the best gift you can give him. Keep your dog on a home diet. He'll actually live longer. And that got me thinking, that if my dog can live longer just by changing the diet,
why not?
Why not? So I started cooking food for him. And I was a Bombay boy before I moved to Bangalore. And, in Bombay, it's all apartments and societies. So again, I knew people because of their dogs. So this was, Tyson's mother. This was Bruno's father. This was, I don't know what their names were, but I knew the dogs' names, right?
Yeah.
So as I cooked food for Harley, I took smaller portions. And when we went for a walk, I'd give it to them and say, try this for your dog. And they came back saying, our dogs love it. Can you make a larger portion? But please charge us for it. And I was like, that sowed the seed of starting a brand.
Yeah.
So initially when I started, of course, I started cooking food at home for dogs, and we went up to about 17, 18 dogs that I would cook food for every day. So difficult times because I'd go for a movie, come back at 1 in the morning and then cook for 18 dogs.
Yeah.
And but it was great because I was called the Bombay's doggy dabba wala. I actually used the dabba walas to deliver food to your dog.
Oh, wow.
And the dabba walas were quite amused when I called them and I said, I need to send food. And they're like, okay, which offices? I said, no offices, goes to houses.
Yeah.
Saying, okay, fine. And it's like big tiffins. How
Yeah.
many foods? Is there like a chas bottle? You know, blah, blah, blah. That typical. I said, no, just one box for a dog. Like, for a dog? I said, yes, for a dog. And that's how it all started.
I mean, the first time I even heard of canine nutrition was Watson. This is about 2011. Watson had a pet sitter, and she was an American lady called Kat Ferreira.
Yes, yes, of course.
And then she told, when she was over and she was sitting him, and she's like, you know, I'm actually a canine nutritionist. And I'm like, a canine what? So I was like, are you a vet? My first question to her was, are you a vet? She's like, no, I'm a canine nutritionist.
Correct.
So I said, don't vets tell you what to feed dogs? And, I mean, that's what
You
your
thought.
entire life,
Yes,
right?
of course.
And so that was my introduction to canine nutrition. Like a whole new world opened up.
Correct.
And when we launched Padi Baki Hai, Kat was consulting, like giving free
Yes, of
consults on
course. Correct.
canine nutrition to
Correct.
people that came in, and it was amazing. So, are you a certified canine nutritionist? Have you done a course?
Yes, I am. So when I moved from the food, so when it was being delivered through the dabba walas,
Yeah.
I realized that it can't always be on order. There has
Yeah.
to be an option where I can want to walk into a shop and I want to buy a packet of food for my dog.
Yeah.
So that got me thinking about how can I actually have the food on the shelves. But so that went in. That's the research and the trial and error we did to kind of eventually come to the retort packing that we use today.
Yeah.
But more importantly, I said, having studied food production, worked in the industry, etc., I knew how flavors gel. I knew how taste profiles got together. But I said I can't just pack that and sell it, right?
Yeah.
So I had to be able to ensure that the food I was giving the dog was nutritious.
Yes.
So I went hunting around for a canine nutritionist. I didn't, meet Kat at that point of time.
Yeah.
And I realized there was no canine nutritionist available in India, right? And there were no courses in India.
And this is 2010, 11, right?
2012.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was like, you know what, this doesn't make sense. So I spoke to a couple of my cousins who are in the US.
Yeah.
One works with the FDA,
Yeah.
doctors and all. And I was like, and they had dogs. So I
Yeah.
said, listen, you know what, I need to look at some kind of a nutritional course or something like that. And they recommended me to a Dr. Ava Frick out of Massachusetts.
Okay.
And she was one of the first people who were doing online courses for
Canine nutrition. Okay.
So I enrolled there, and like the Dabbawalas, full of astonishment, she's like, you're in India?
Yeah.
You are thinking about canine nutrition in India? I said, yes. She's like, do you even have packaged dog food there? I said, yes.
Yeah, we do.
Unfortunately, only kibble, but we have. Okay, please.
Yeah,
Welcome to the program.
Fabulous.
So that's where I did my canine nutritional course from. So yes, I am a certified canine nutritionist.
Nice. Do you think taste is an important component of canine nutrition?
I think first thing that attracts dogs to food is the smell.
Okay.
When you cook anything at 140 degrees, it's burnt,
Yes.
right? It doesn't smell good.
Yeah.
And then what they do is they spray the palatint, which is your grease or fat on top of it, so
Yeah.
it kind of feels there. But one thing I've known with dogs is it's the smell first, right?
Yeah.
They get attracted to the food with the smell.
Yeah.
And then what is more important than taste is mouthfeel.
Okay.
It's not necessarily the crunch all the time,
Okay.
right? They want to eat food which is like
Different textures in their mouth.
So while I'm eating, like how when we want to eat a pulao, there is you bite on a carrot and you've bitten on a carrot.
Yeah.
Right? So like that, they also look at textures, of course. And yes, when there's meat involved over there, and that's what their predominant, their love for the ingredient is predominantly meat.
Yeah.
When there's sufficient meat is what brings them to that as well. So typically, how do you do it for humans? You take the same recipe,
Yeah.
you'd cook it with
Different-
or without masalas or with
Yeah.
or a different process, and then see which will affect the outcome of the taste.
Yeah.
And then you feed the person the taste to kind of choose which one is better.
Correct.
Right? Why do I prefer biryani from this restaurant rather than that restaurant? But for dogs, it's not.
And how important is knowing canine nutrition for figuring out what kind of food to give your dog as per the dog's size, weight, age?
What you need to do definitely as a pet parent, if you are a discerning pet parent,
Yeah.
is at least read up and know what, like how in our Bombay language, mota moti, we should know what's
Yeah,
happening.
exactly.
So
yeah.
you need to know that, what's good for them, what's bad for them. Just because, they like meat doesn't mean that
It's
if
good for
some
them.
product says there's 45% protein,
Yeah.
it's very good for them.
Correct.
No, anything in excess, right? I mean,
Yes.
I'm a living example of excess butter and excess ghee and everything, shows, right? Even on camera. But the thing is that you've got to be able to regulate it with the dogs, right?
Yeah.
So at least get to know what you're feeding your dog. Read the labels.
Most of these
Very
labels don't
important.
say much though.
So labels don't say much, but you should know what to look for. So,
Which is what are you supposed
which is
to look
for? So when you put in the product in your ingredient list at the back, what people really don't know is you're supposed to put it in descending order of the grammage.
Okay.
So you will always see the larger companies put
Yeah.
chicken and meat and protein
Yeah.
and all in the front. No, there's corn, there's rice, there's wheat flour, there's maize. So what they do is the fillers, they put 5 different varieties,
Ah.
which each one is less than the chicken, but together it's 80% of the food.
Got it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I tell you that I'm giving you rice and bajra and millets and something else,
Yeah.
and all of that is 30 grams each, but 31 grams is chicken. So I put chicken in the beginning, but I'm giving you 120 grams of carbs.
Yeah, which is
So
not.
you need to exactly
figure out what's
those,
happening.
Those kind of elements.
Yeah,
And
because I've seen a bunch of packaging that just has so many different things. Like for my indies right now, it's literally simple. It's chicken, it's one sabzi, it's rice,
Correct.
and a pinch of turmeric. We will get into turmeric
the big turmeric debate.
the haldi debate in a bit. And there's just so much stuff thrown in, so many spices, flavors.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like a lot.
Exactly.
A lot for a dog, to me. Like,
Exactly.
are you doing it for the dog or are you selling it to me?
True. So there are certain superfoods which are very good for dogs.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Like how haldi technically
Yes.
is a superfood. Right?
Okay.
Similarly, tulsi
Yes.
is very good. Moringa powder is
Yeah.
very good. Right? But would I give you a recipe which I say today's meal you need to put 2 pinches of moringa, tomorrow you need 3 pinches of tulsi? No, that's overkill.
Yeah.
Right? You need to just ensure that your dog has a balanced diet. The gut needs to settle. If you have a puppy, stick to one food till the puppy is about 6 to 8 months old.
Yes.
Let the gut settle, right? We all know, and every vet's told us, and every pet parent knows, the first thing we do when you take a dog for a walk is check the poop,
Yes.
right? Because
Correct.
that's the first sign of something going
tummy.
wrong in the dog,
Yeah.
right? And everything is in the gut, right? I was in the Netherlands last year, and I visited a doctor who does some phenomenal stuff with dogs, right? There's a kind of like an ultrasound sensor kind of thing, and they do a whole body scan. It gives you about 70, 80 parameters of your dog. And actually, she showed me that there's a dog who has a shoulder problem because of something wrong in the stomach.
Oh, wow.
The links
Yeah, the links are insane.
are
Yeah,
insane, and that
Yeah.
was mind-blowing. Right? So today when you see your dog has a particular problem or your dog is limping,
Could be
it
related-
actually could be
related to
nutrition. That's why for us it's orthomolecular nutrition now. We don't call it canine nutrition, we call it orthomolecular canine
Oh,
nutrition.
really?
And it's not the ortho you and I know that
Yeah.
we've broken a bone so we go to an orthoped.
What is it?
Ortho means molecular,
Wow.
right? Original. So what we do is we fix each cell. And as there's one happy cell, there will be 10 happy cells, and the happiness cells multiply. So that's how we look at improving your dog's health,
How
cell by
lovely.
cell.
How
right?
amazing.
Yeah, but that's where the world has gone to. But
Yeah.
we are far, far behind.
Yeah,
this.
well, I mean, what's
These are all
happening,
things
like,
I've learned in the last 2 years. Talking to our chief nutritionist Ingrid and people, in other vets across
The
Europe.
world. Yeah.
Across Europe, and it's
What-
amazing.
How are you
It's
seeing
amazing.
the trend of canine nutrition in India? Like, are people catching on to this? I mean,
It's definitely
better than
going.
2011
It's
and
definitely
12, I
going.
know.
So see, when you talk about canine nutrition, first is you talk about the pet parent.
Yes.
For me, it's very important to talk about the pet parent
Yes.
first, right? When I started this brand about a decade ago, nobody, even the vets didn't know what the benefit of vet food was,
Correct.
right? And that's because they don't even study canine nutrition.
Yeah.
It's another big thing which is
Yeah.
there, right? But there were the 3 types of pet parents, right? There's one, the discerning pet parent, like you and I, who will, taste every take a bite of every biscuit,
Yeah.
and whatever you do, you feed your dog, you first want to taste
Yeah.
it, you want to read up about it, right?
Yeah.
Which is a very, very minuscule 0.000 some one percentage of
Yeah.
pet parents there. Then there are the pet parents who are the pseudo pet parents, like, oh, my kid wants a dog. Chalo, theek hai, we get one dog. First, go to visit the vet.
Yeah.
The vet will say, "Acha, ye khana khilao, wo khana khilao." You will buy that 110 kilo packet.
Yeah.
And then you'll tell the houseboy who's looking after the dog, who basically becomes the dog's companion, ye khali ho jayega, to yehi kharidna. So there's no brains. The kid gets up and goes to school, goes to college. The parents are busy. Basically the dog is looked after by the caretaker.
Yeah.
Caretaker leaves, dogs are heartbroken, and I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen.
So have I,
right?
yeah.
And then you have the adoptive pet parents, wherein I will get the dog, and then I'm busy with my work and with my life, and my mother or my father at home will spoil the child.
Yeah.
One girai roti for me, one girai roti for the dog.
Yeah.
With the same food that we are eating, everything is the same. So that discerning pet parent
is the one.
Is the segment that is growing right now, and is the segment which understands what we do.
Yeah.
Right. Also, when people ask me, what are your thoughts on pet parents? I said, especially now that we have what we categorize as the dinks and the dilks, right? The double income no kids and the double income late kids.
Yeah.
Being a pet parent, you need to be a different breed of a human.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, and not only for the fun. No, I'll tell you more.
A lot of stuff comes in it.
So I mean, for me, it hits home. Like you lost Watson, I've lost Harley, and we know what this is, right?
Yeah.
Every pet parent knows that unless something untoward happens, they will outlive their pet. While every human parent knows, unless something untoward happens, their children will always outlive them.
Correct.
So, how many people would be human parents if you knew that before you died, your child would die? Right? And pet parents do that. So, I salute pet parents because the hearts are like bigger than the bodies. Right? Because you have to be like that. You have to be like that.
Because you're so giving,
because
right?
Because you're going to get a dog, your dog's going to just give you unconditional love.
Yeah.
And cats also, birds also, budgies also, everything, right?
Animals.
But you know that your pet is going to die before you.
Yeah.
Right? So when you get the dog, you're always there
on a
for
timer.
that thing. Yeah. And people always tell me, I meat so many pet parents and they're like, what, I lost one dog, I can't have another one.
Yeah.
And I say, what, get another one. Always. Right? Because the 12 and adopt one.
Yeah.
Adopt one. The 12 to 14 years of life of happiness that you give that dog.
Yeah.
For that dog, that is priceless. Like now I have Sherpa.
Yeah.
Now I know for the next 12 to 14 years, he's going to have a great life because he's in my house.
Yeah.
And not because I have a dog food brand, but any pet parent, right? Any pet parent.
Yeah.
So I always feel the trade-off, it's always better to give the dog that love.
Yeah.
So pet parents are a different breed. But yes, they need to know about, at least be educated about what goes into your dog. If a packet says there's meat and rice, why is there no meat and rice in the ingredients? Right? Today, I can, like mock meat, right? There is chicken soup powder, which is vegetarian. It smells like chicken, tastes like chicken, looks like chicken soup, but it's vegetarian. Right? So it's oils, it's flavors. So if there's an ingredient which is shouted out in the front, why is it not in the ingredients? Right? I was looking at, this is what we do, right? We constantly look at different brands and we figure it out. And for me, when people say, I feed vet food, and I say, okay, wow, great, good. What vet food do you? Oh, that 30 rupee gravy pouch. I'm like, no, that's not vet food. So, see, the thing is,
I think that awareness is also lacking. And I feel a lot of people go for the packet stuff because it's just easier than taking your time to cook.
No, I agree. Right? I agree. But read the packet. Read
the packet.
And a 70-gram pouch says moisture is 93%. So 93% of 70 grams is 60, 63, 64 grams. That's water you're feeding a dog. Right? Protein, I saw one label. It says protein 3%. Okay, the brand says chicken and liver. And the back protein is 3%.
Oh God.
So what is 3%? But the catch, 2.9 is liver, 0.1 is chicken.
Oh God.
Now what is that? What is that? Right? Exactly. So people used to
and
ask.
I don't think people are reading labels either. It's just you go to a pet shop and you pick up stuff.
I also say forget labels.
Yeah.
I say forget labels. Understand the cost of the food that you're buying.
Yeah.
See, we all know in packaged food today, right? When you order from a Swiggy or a Zomato or anywhere else, you buy a packaged food over there. You know that there are margins. You know there is everything. You know there's packaging cost, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Right. The largest kibble companies in the world are public listed and they publish their reports. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. a particular brand of kibble which sells, say at 100 rupees, say if their packs, this is how I used to explain to pet parents, saying that forget about wet food, dry food, forget about everything.
Yeah.
Just understand the value of the food you're feeding your dog.
Okay.
So when you look at that, a 1 kilo pouch, right? You know that there is a 25% margin to the retailer, there's a 10% margin to the distributor. That pouch costs about 8 rupees. So when you start doing 18% GST,
Yeah.
so when you start reducing that there, the food cost is what's left,
Yeah.
right? And how do I take what's left? Because they have published profit margins, right? So if they've published profit margins, you know that that's their profit,
Yeah.
right? So yes, on different brand, on different products, there'll be a difference, but that's the average.
Yeah.
When you take that average, a 1 kilo pack of kibble, the food cost comes out to be 9 rupees.
Oh Lord.
You don't get a vada pav in 9 rupees today, and
How
you're
you-
saying you're giving your dog balanced, nutritious, rich 1 kilo of meat food for $9. I want to know who that chicken vendor is. Man.
Who is that
I'm
chicken
going to
vendor?
just buy that and sell it to all the
Yeah,
restaurants.
yeah.
Then. I mean, when the food cost of
Yeah.
that 1 kilo is in single digits, what are you feeding a dog?
So scary.
So people don't think like that.
No, you don't think like that. You actually don't think like
They
that.
don't, no.
You know, you think somebody's cracked this code. It must. I think the perception usually is if it's on a shelf,
Yes.
it's safe.
Yes.
Somebody has done protocols, checks. And I don't think in India we have those
So
standards.
can I say something
Yeah.
to the Indian public today? There is no body as in not
Checking
nobody,
the-
but a no organization that has laid any standards down for pet food in India. So people can say what they want to say. Please do your homework.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
very
you.
important.
I'm so glad
Very
you said that.
important. Very important.
What is the correct process of changing a dog's diet?
So I like to the 75-25 rule.
Yeah,
is
let's
what
tell
is-
people,
is
because I
what's
think very
there,
few
right?
of us know
It's very
this,
few
by
of them
the
know
way.
that, right?
Yeah.
So also first thing, understand that if you're feeding a dog kibble,
Yeah.
the quantity of that kibble versus versus wet food is going to be different.
Okay.
You need to feed more wet food
Got it.
because it's less processed, it's more natural.
Yeah.
So you need to eat more to get the required nutrition,
Okay.
right? Everything is processed, broken down into a formula and put into that one kibble, and
Yeah.
hence you need to give them less.
Yeah.
right? So first is that you need to understand that. Secondly, and more importantly, is if you're feeding a dog, even whatever diet is there, right? So the 75-25 rule is for the first 2 days, keep 75% of what you're currently feeding a
Yeah.
dog. So if I'm feeding my dog food
Kibble.
A and food B,
Yeah.
let's just say A and B.
Yeah.
So it could be kibble, it could be another brand
Whatever
of wet
it
food,
is,
it
yeah,
could be
yeah.
it could be home cooked food as well,
Yeah.
whatever. So 75% of
Current food.
25% of the
New
new
food.
food.
First 2
right?
days.
First 2 days, 2
Yeah.
to 3 days, right? It
Yeah.
depends on dog to dog also. You
Yeah.
mix it up a little bit now. The next 2 to 3 days, you make it 50-50, where it's half of the
Yeah.
old food and half of the new food. And once your dog gets used to it,
Yeah.
then after that, make it 25% of the old food and 75% of the new food for about another 2-3 days.
Yeah.
And then move it to 100% of the new
So
food.
it takes about a week for this changeover.
Yes, I would say
approximately.
I would say safer is about
8 to
7
10
to 10 days.
7 to
7 to
10
10 days.
7
It's
to
always
10.
better to take a couple of days longer now.
Yeah.
Because if you suddenly switch the food,
They
what
don't
happens is what happens is even if they eat it, right? Certain breeds like labs,
Yeah, they'll
they
eat anything.
themselves to death.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
but
true.
if you change the diet and they eat that food, the gastric system gets shocked.
Ah.
That all this time I've been processing something
And now you've
suddenly I'm
suddenly
eating
changed
something
it,
else.
yeah.
It's like you and I go to one part of this country which the Guntur chilies are famous for, and you go and you
The
finish a
Lord.
packet of
Chilies.
biryani, and the next morning
You're gone.
you're shooting rockets in the air, right? I mean, so our system
Yeah,
reacts.
yeah,
so why would
yeah.
a dog system not react?
So you have to.
Right?
So,
So,
1
yeah.
week to 10 days.
1 week to 10 days.
To change your dog food.
Dog
That's
diet,
great.
yes.
So are there superfoods at home for our dogs in our kitchens now?
Moringa.
Yeah.
Right, it's beautiful.
Okay.
Right, I mean, and now I'm in Bangalore, and people say, "Oh, what can I give?" I give my dog curd rice, this, that. No, I said, "Fine, great," but you have moringa which you use for sambar.
Yeah.
Just boil that, give
And-
that soup, give that mush. That's perfect. It's beautiful. There's fiber. It's a superfood. Moringa
Yeah.
is a superfood.
Yeah.
Tulsi, right? Tulsi. You don't want to buy the powder. Every house has got a tulsi plant.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Break
So
off a
just-
few leaves,
And put it in the
put it
khana.
in the food.
Lovely.
Right? So there's so many simple things you can do at home.
What else? What
Right.
else at home?
You want to go into the turmeric?
We are going to go into turmeric. That debate right after this.
Yeah.
Right after this. we're
So
gonna
I
go
would
into-
say curcumin is good, but
Yes.
we'll get to that like we
Yeah.
said. Right, we'll get to that like we said. Olive oil,
Okay.
very good, especially if you have a dog with long coats. So what happens with olive oil is I tell people is 2 half capfuls.
Yeah.
1/2 capful twice a week
Okay.
into your dog's food.
I put coconut oil for my dogs
Yes,
once, twice,
also,
but it gut.
also fine. So see, coconut oil has a different benefit to olive oil.
Okay.
Coconut oil again settles the gut.
Yes.
Olive oil strengthens the hair follicles.
Ah.
So if you have a dog which has longer coat,
Yeah.
then olive oil helps the coat become shinier,
Nice.
stronger hair.
Nice.
Right?
Nice.
But coconut oil also is there.
So similar that once, twice a week. That's it. Not
Yes.
required.
And can I break another myth? You don't
Yes.
need cold pressed, you don't need organic, you don't need wooden pressed.
Regular.
Regular stuff. We've all grown up on the regular stuff.
Yeah.
Nothing is wrong.
Okay.
If you overdo it, of course, that's
Yeah.
there. But
Yeah.
if you want to call it organic, I mean, there's no need to.
Yeah,
Honestly,
so that's
there's no
fine.
need to.
Now
Yeah.
that we've said turmeric, let's debunk some myths, please. Starting with that.
So, see, turmeric, when we say, is good for dogs, right?
Please, yeah,
No,
let's-
why? We have to understand why is it good for dogs,
Yes.
right? So, like when we spoke about the oils just now, coconut oil has
For the coat.
has the benefit. No, coconut oil
Sorry,
for
for the
stomach.
gut and the.
Olive oil for the coat,
Yes.
right? Moringa is a superfood, right?
Yeah.
It's packed with minerals, vitamins. So if someone's saying that you need to give the dog turmeric, understand why, right? It's not the turmeric that's good for the dog. It's the curcumin in the turmeric which is good for your dog.
Just say that 3 more times.
It's not turmeric that's good for your dog. It's the curcumin in the turmeric that's good for your dog.
Perfect.
Right.
And that can be given separate also?
It can be no. So what happens also here? If you want to buy it separately, then it becomes a extract. So
Okay.
it becomes like a supplement, or
Okay.
it becomes something else, right?
Yeah.
But if you want to give it naturally, right? Look for the turmeric. So there are different types of turmeric also, which is there. There's the regular turmeric that
Yeah.
you get, your masalas which are there.
Yeah.
You get the organic turmeric.
Organic.
You get all that, right? Look for a turmeric which has a higher curcumin percentage.
Okay.
Right, and the Himalayan turmeric is what is the best. So that has the highest percentage of curcumin, at least for turmeric available in India.
Yeah.
So you need to give the dog curcumin. Now you don't need to give it in. You don't need to put so much turmeric that the food becomes yellow.
Yellow, yeah.
The poop is yellow. Everything is yellow.
No, and it's bitter, right? This is
It
what I
is.
was talking to you
Not
about.
only
that,
is it bitter, but it also is heaty. It
Yeah,
releases
it-
heat.
and in the summer, if I like, this was my concern with animal welfares when I was going in, that it was just haldi chawal that I could see. You know, and I was like, it's bitter. What point of time are you putting it in the cooking? You just need to put a pinch. Summertime, it creates heat. Because they're like, oh, the dogs in the shelter don't eat because they're scared. So I'm like, no.
No, they don't eat it because they know
Because
it's
it
not good.
tastes horrible.
Yeah,
Like,
it
you know,
does.
like, and I've seen, like, I've been following up on this diligently with welfares in Goa, and they have said by reducing the turmeric
the
that they've
food
been
intake
putting
will
in,
increase.
the dogs are eating.
Of course they will. Of course. So it's not
And-
the turmeric. It's
Yes,
the curcumin.
and
Like
again,
I
there's
say.
one more thing I wanted to ask you is how important is timing for feeding
Oh,
dogs?
very important. So if you have a pup,
Yeah.
you have a pup up to the age of about 8 months, I would
Yeah.
say feed your dog thrice a day.
Yeah.
Right? What's going to happen is that it's a cycle where they get the energy, they burn it, they rest. They get the energy, burn it, they rest.
Yeah.
Right? Remember, at some point of time, you need to bring your dog down to 2 meals a day.
Yeah.
Right? From 6 meals to come to 2 meals.
I mean, I've done that.
Versus 3 meals
It's
coming to
only
2 meals. It's
It's
easier
easier.
for the dog to transition. Forget about you
Yeah.
cooking or not cooking. If you have a puppy, right? So like I said, 3 times a day, but about 8 months or 7 to 8 months,
Yeah.
once they're old, then switch them to twice a day, right?
A young-
Preferably would be 12 hours apart. So about
Yeah.
like 7:38 in the morning, then a 7:38 in the evening.
Yeah.
But you still can have about a 10 and a 14-hour gap, with 14 hours being the night, because again in the night the dog will sleep and
Yeah.
there's less energy burning, etc., etc. So you can keep that gap a little longer,
Yeah.
right? But twice a day.
So, I mean, usually, I'm only talking with my experience. Most of the welfares will feed the dogs between 10:30, 11. And then they want to feed them again at 3:34 because they
The
want to
dog
leave at
won't eat.
5,
The dog won't eat.
you know?
Yeah, the dog
And
won't eat.
you can't do that. I mean, I've
Can't
been
do
saying that for a while,
Can't do that.
you know?
Can't do
So they need a bigger gap.
Correct. See, again, dogs in welfares are anyway malnourished. They're anyway weak.
So it's
They
so
anyway have a
important to
problem.
feed
It's
them
very
right.
important for their food to be on time.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So actually something that we are doing and we are going to be doing and we're launching soon is part of our give back to the community.
yeah,
Is that people have said, oh, you're a food thing, so start, giving food, give food for stray dogs and
Yeah.
this and that. No, that's not what you want to do.
yeah,
What we want to do is we want to make stray dogs healthier,
yes,
right? So part of what we're doing is we're launching the supplements, like I mentioned,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
July. We are actually going to do kilo packs
Of the supplements?
multivitamin and immunity booster together,
oh nice.
and available only in kilo packs to shelters and to feeders.
Oh, this is only for them.
Only for them.
Fantastic.
Only for them at
Fantastic.
probably a margin of the cost or whatever
Yeah.
it is to cover
That's
logistics
amazing.
or whatever it is. Because if you put that in the food, even in that normal chicken rice
Yeah.
haldi that you're
Yeah.
feeding the dog, you're giving the dog multivitamins and boosting their immunity.
Excellent.
Right? So what happens is that the human-animal conflict, which people today is like, it's huge. Now, some
Yes.
dog bit one dog here, one child here, some dog
Yeah.
bit someone here. So let's go kill all the dogs, let's go kill all the feeders, blah, blah, blah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
The animal-human conflict happens when the dog is unhealthy,
yes,
right? Don't we all get crabby when we are sick?
exactly.
So why do you expect anything less from a dog who's living on the road,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So if the dogs get healthier there,
yeah,
right, they are not bothered about what's happening with the human.
yep,
The animal-human conflict becomes less,
yes,
right? And I think also it's very important to work with the ABC, the sterilization,
yes,
more than feeding the dog.
yep,
How about you reduce the number of mouths you need to feed,
yeah.
and then what
I
who
mean,
you are
that's
feeding,
what I focus on.
and then who
actually.
you are feeding, you are strengthening their health,
Yes.
right? And then they get sterilized, of course.
Yeah.
So then there are fewer dogs. So this whole
That
net-
I've always said that, like even for India, that's one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast is I want to raise the awareness for finding solutions for human-dog conflict.
yes,
And for our dog population management,
Correct.
So that's the whole idea. I've gotten into this space for that. It's like for years you're just even as donors, you're constantly giving money for feeding dogs.
yes.
Feeders are constantly reaching out for khana for dogs.
But reduce the number of dogs. That's the more
Why are we
important
not
thing.
focusing on sterilizations?
Sterilization.
9-in-1 vaccines. See, anti-rabies free milta hai from certain companies. But the 9-in-1 is as important because it's got zoonotic diseases. You've got your leptospirosis and
Whatever.
falana
And-
dimkhana in
and
there.
dogs
Like,
being on the road are more susceptible to get those diseases.
and then so it's so important for responsible dog ownerships as pet
Yes.
parents also.
Yes.
If you can take on your community and
Correct.
like just get in touch with in welfare in your area,
Correct.
sponsor
Correct.
sterilizations, sponsor vaccinations, sponsor.
That's more important than the
You
food.
know,
Yes, of course.
I
While
mean,
the
of course,
dogs are
food is
there,
a- yeah.
while the dogs which are there have to be fed.
Yes.
So let's not say, oh, stop now. Let's stop. Giving money for food and
helping the
only
problem
do
or
this,
feeding
but-
the problem.
Yes, exactly. So work. It should be like I think if people are donate.
Split.
Yeah, donate a percentage towards feeding and donate a percentage
Yes.
towards the sterilization.
That's very important. Now let's get back into our myths. Okay, so turmeric is one. Lactose, milk.
Yes.
Please, let's talk
Please
about
don't give your puppies milk.
any kittens, puppies, none of them, right?
Dogs especially are lactose intolerant,
Yes.
right? You're not
Only
supposed
the
to get-
mother's milk for nutrition for the first 12 weeks.
Yeah, so technically 16 weeks. If you
Yeah.
really want to ensure your puppy stays really healthy all its life,
Yeah.
don't wean the puppy off the mother's milk for 16 weeks, 4
Okay.
months. That's
Yeah.
more important. Yes, the problem we face today is that then at 4 months the puppy is
Too big.
not as cute as a puppy. I want that puppy for my Instagram
Yeah,
profile.
well,
my
exactly. So
this, that, blah, blah, blah. So I want them at as early as 4 weeks and 6 weeks and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff which is
yeah.
there. Okay, even if that's happened, I'm not
Yeah,
saying
getting to
it
that.
should, but even if that happens, don't feed your dog milk, right? Because dogs are not meant to have milk except, like you said, the
and
mother's
mom's
milk,
milk, yeah.
right? So curd is different, right? Curd is different because there's a culture in it, right? It becomes a probiotic,
So that
right?
works.
So that works.
Dahi chalte hain.
Curd is very good for dogs, especially
But,
in the summers. In quantities,
Well,
of course.
you
You can't
can't
just give half kilo of curd and say, "Boss, enjoy
Ho
your
gaya
life."
khana, ho
हाँ,
gaya,
वो
yeah.
नहीं, that's
Yeah, see,
because
quantity control.
Because again, you're giving, what are you giving in curd? What are you
Yeah.
giving? Curd has got fat, it's got milk solids,
Yeah,
it's got all
yeah.
those kind of things, and there's nothing else.
Exactly.
Correct? Where's the fiber? Where's the vitamins? Where are the minerals? Where's the carbs? Right?
Yeah.
There's nothing there. So Yes, don't give milk to your dogs. Right?
Yeah.
Curd is good, but if you're not, like I said earlier also, if you have a puppy, then for the first 6 to 8 months, don't experiment with the food.
Yeah.
Right? Either can get food which is predominantly meant for puppies.
Yeah.
Right? What we do is like somebody called me the other day saying, I'm looking at your food and there's no puppy food. I said it's under therapeutic. And they're like, why are you calling it therapeutic? My pup's not sick. I said the fact that your pup is with you at 4 weeks,
Yeah, pup that needs therapeutic food.
there could be a problem.
Yeah.
So the reason we call it therapeutic is because it needs to have some extra calcium, it needs to have immunity boosting, right? Because everything is losing out from its mother's milk.
I used to
You need
take
to give it.
eggshells and put them in the mixie and put that powder for Watson.
Yes. So now you do get eggshell powder available.
Yeah, I
in the
mean,
market
this
as
I'm
well.
talking about
Of course,
2010,
of course, yeah.
and fish oil.
Yes.
I used to put that also. I
Yes.
mean, this is like my husband used to really research. And
Cod
used
liver
to-
oil is very good for dogs.
Yes, I remember that.
Salmon oil is very good for dogs.
Yeah.
Right? All these things are very good for them.
I want to get into okay, one more. Let's bust one more myth. What
One
else?
more myth.
Yeah.
Raw food is good for your dog.
The BAF diet.
The
right?
BAF
okay,
diet.
Okay. I don't think in India, maybe.
The BAF diet is basically bones and raw food. So there are
Yes.
two elements to it. There's
Yeah.
one, the India story, and there's the international story.
Yes.
Let's talk about dogs on the whole, right? Dogs have descended from wolves,
Well,
blah,
yes.
blah, blah. Dogs
But
are
now they're
this, dogs
domestic.
are that. We've domesticated, we've spoiled them,
Yeah.
right?
We've humanized
Your
them.
dog will sit over here. If your dog sleeps on your bed, sits on your sofa,
Yeah.
and you take a tissue and wipe his
Bum.
backside after he's done potty, he's no longer a wolf. Let's be very clear with it, right? He's a sheep in wolf's clothing or whatever you want to call him, right? So we have basically domesticated them. Now, when you domesticate them, right? Forget about them. What about us? When we were Neanderthals,
Yeah.
we ate raw meat, right?
Yeah.
The system was used to that,
Not anymore.
right? Today, no dog is used to raw food,
Yeah.
right? So that's
But that-
one. So one is that the genetics of the dog has changed,
Yes.
right?
Over
It's
the
no
day.
longer a wild animal, wolf, blah blah blah, which is there. Secondly, and more importantly, within India,
The quality.
the quality of raw food, no matter
So
where you buy it
dangerous.
from, whether you're buying it from an app or you're buying it from a website or you're buying
Yeah.
it from your butcher, it's loaded with salmonella,
Yeah.
right? If you're giving your dog raw food in India, it's just a
Asking
matter
for
of
trouble.
time. It's a matter of time that you are going to cause a gastric issue with your dog. It's a matter of time, right? Bones again, right? Which bones? So important, right? You can't give
Chicken bones.
any poultry bones, chicken, duck, you can't give those bones.
Yeah.
Why? Because they are part of the avian family, right? The avian family,
Yeah.
which is basically meant to fly. They have to be light. So those bones are hollow,
Yeah.
right? So if you break a chicken bone, it splinters
Exactly.
and it can cut you up inside.
Yeah.
People say, but no bones I can give. I said, go buy a shoulder. The ball socket joint, the shoulder is the best, shoulder and hip,
Yeah.
right? That's the best bone that you can get for your dog.
Yeah. Now let's get into the importance of a balanced diet. Puppies,
Correct.
adult, senior dogs,
Correct.
and dogs that are unwell.
Yes. So the dog food market, just the food without the treats, etc., was about 3,500 crores in
Yeah, yeah.
2022. Will be about 6,500, 7,000 crores in 27.
Yeah.
So it's one of the very few markets which will more than double in the next
Yeah,
these
it's
5
going
years.
crazy, the pet
right?
industry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we are the 7th largest pet market in the world.
Yeah.
We are the fastest growing pet market in the world.
And we have no protocols.
We have no protocols.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you look at this, now that 3,000 odd crores of dog food is only about 10% of the actual pet market, pet size. Only about 10% of pet parents actually buy packaged dog food for their dogs. 90% are feeding their dogs home food. So the market size is literally,
Wow.
yes, it's literally 10 times 3,000 crores. Post-COVID, it's much more. It's
Yes,
in double
yes.
digits, right?
Yeah.
It's in double digits. So
This is the good life, Scotty
That's
boy.
the good life.
Yeah. So it's senior dog. What is
Senior
a
dog.
balanced diet for
Yeah.
a 10 plus
So-
old senior dog?
So with puppies, most important is immunity boosting. We have these proprietary premixes, right? So the puppies have one which boosts their immunity, gives
Yeah.
them the calcium, give them the growth hormone, right? Everything
Yeah.
ready to grow. When you talk about a maintenance diet, which is
Yeah,
about
but
8
like
months.
puppies, adults, senior dogs.
Yeah,
and-
so adults are what you call the maintenance diet.
Yeah.
But unless there's something wrong with your dog, from the age of about 8 to 10 months up to about 7 or 8 years,
Yeah,
depending on which breed,
is your
etc.,
adult.
etc. That's your adult stage that you
Yeah.
call what we call maintenance diet in the pet food industry.
Okay, so you
right?
call
So the
that
maintenance diet.
Okay.
Because you're maintaining the dog's health,
yeah.
right? Over there, now today we have people, we do B2C events, we do events in places. People come and turn a packet around and say, Acha, chicken, liver, cauliflower, rice, carrot. So I can also make this. Yes, you can. But what's after that?
Yeah.
That's what you can't make, right? Which is the minerals, vitamins, and amino acids, fatty acids, etc.
Yeah.
When you make food for your dog at home,
Yeah.
and this is where we started. Harley's Corner 12 years ago started with filling the gap of what is good for your dog,
Yeah.
the proportion that you need to give your dog, and basically conveniencing the pet parent that you don't need to boil everything separately. We are giving it to you together.
Ready.
Was that balanced? No. Are all other my competitors in the market today balanced food? No, they aren't. Because what happens is no matter what you do with natural food, you will never get that 100% balance for your dog in minerals, vitamins, amino acids, fatty acids, etc.
Okay.
Example I love to give is zinc.
Okay.
Right? Zinc is imperative for dogs. You need zinc, right? Especially for dogs like huskies. If you notice, a lot of huskies will have dry skin and everything because one is that there is less zinc in all the food.
Okay.
Secondly, huskies inherently, genetically, cannot absorb zinc that easily.
Okay.
So Sherpa is a half husky. He's on a zinc supplement because I know he needs zinc. So what happens here is that, zinc is naturally found in oysters.
Where you
Now
get
tell
oysters?
me, where are you going to get? You may get them in Bombay, you may get them in Cochin. Where are you going to get oysters?
Oh, wow.
How expensive are oysters? Who's going to buy an oyster and feed it to their dog? Right?
Yeah.
So simple stuff like that, right? Now, if you were to look at taking only natural food and putting it together for a dog, a 25 kilo dog would need about 6.5 kilos of food a day to get the optimum balance. Now, that is minimum in certain counts, but by giving 6.5 kilos of food, there is going to be toxicity because you're overfeeding a particular
Exactly. Yeah.
So that balance. Now people ask us, who defines that balance, right?
Yeah.
If there's no association in India which regulates dog food, who does it? So what we do is we look towards the two largest markets in the world, which is America and Europe. Through all the research they've done, they have parameters of what a dog should be fed at different life stages.
Yeah.
Now, what we do with Ingrid mainly, who's based out of the Netherlands, is that she works on the FDF and AFCO guidelines.
Okay.
So our food is balanced on over 40 parameters as per what AFCO and FDF determine your dog needs.
Okay, wow.
Right? Which is not there. So vitamin B1, B2, B3, 6, 9, 12, vitamins A, D, E, K, which are the fat-soluble vitamins, magnesium, zinc, potassium, calcium, all those kind of things. Green lip mussel, which we use in therapeutic food, right?
My God, I mean, now these things are like...
Green tea extract.
How are pet parents going to keep track of all of this?
The thing is, in India, you can't buy green lip mussels, right? But green lip mussels are essential if your dog is overweight. Because it has a lot of glucosamine, which helps in the fat metabolism.
Wow.
Now, it's not your job as a pet parent to know all this.
Yeah, it's too
right?
much.
It's our job as responsible brands out in the market to ensure that we give you the right product. And then senior dogs. When you talk about senior dogs, again, you need to have higher energy. So you need kilocalories have to be higher. You need to keep the fat on the lower side.
All right.
So you can reduce the carb, you can reduce the fatty part of the thing.
Okay.
Because it's going to be more difficult as you grow older for them to lose weight.
Got it.
Right? And then we come to therapeutic diet, right?
Yeah, which is for sick dogs,
which is for sick dogs or even dogs
with conditions.
Not necessarily sick.
But certain...
Yeah, so like for example, now the biggest thing I talk about is obesity management.
Yes, which
right?
is a big
Our
thing.
labs are not meant to be barrels.
Yeah.
Labs are meant to be parallel lines.
Good
We
Lord.
have barrels. Okay. Now the thing is, first thing is kam khilado.
That's not ideal.
Right. Now what will happen in kam khilado scenario, right?
Weakness.
The energy is going to be lower. So if I'm feeding him 500, so let's take a dog which is 40 kilos in weight.
Wow.
40 kilos, okay. At even the lower scale of the 12 to 15 grams is 480 grams. Is what you need to feed your dog.
Yeah.
Now, if you're feeding a balanced regular diet of 480 grams and I say usko kam kar do, what's happening is you're reducing the energy, the carb, the protein, everything.
Yeah.
Right? So your dog, where your dog would between meals probably exercise for 6 hours a day, is going to exercise for 2 hours a day.
Because he can't,
Because he doesn't have the energy.
Doesn't have the energy.
What we do in our obesity management food is we say feed 60% of it. So if you had to feed 480 grams, feed 60% of that, which is probably about 300 odd grams.
Yeah.
Now, in that 300 grams,
It has the kilocalories
of 480 grams It has the fiber of 480 grams because fiber gives you satiety, so your dog feels full, right? Then it's got glucosamine, it's got green lip mussels, it's got everything to help metabolize fat faster.
Yeah.
So in 3 months, you will see a distinct change in the weight of your dog.
Wow.
Right? So that's what we need to learn. It's that those finer nuances of pet parenting is what's important today.
No, and I'm glad that you're starting consults and people can reach out to you for
Yes.
that, because that will really help. Let's talk about diet fads. I know we spoke about buff, but like, what about raw meat? To ho gaya
Raw is
buff.
there, buff ho gaya.
Grain-free, bones, vegetarian.
What is important for a dog, right? Is it vegetarian, non-vegetarian, or is it the protein, carb, fiber mix? It's the protein, carb, fiber mix.
Okay.
Now, the thing is, and what I tell pet parents, people ask me that if you're doing vegetarian food, why is your vegetarian food more expensive than meat? It is. Because one is paneer is more expensive than chicken today.
Okay. All right.
You haven't shopped lately. But a kilo of paneer in Bombay, if I'm not mistaken, is about 400 to 450 rupees a kilo.
Wow.
A kilo of chicken is about 200 rupees. Right? Of course, you
Yeah.
lose the bone, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah,
yeah,
and all
yeah.
that stuff. And paneer is, right, is that you use the full yield.
Yeah.
But the thing with paneer is vegetarian proteins are slow release proteins, what we call. So when we put in, so if we are putting in X percentage of meat in our diet, we
Yeah.
have to put 2X of paneer.
Wow.
Because what's going to happen is the paneer is going to go through the dog's digestive tract and it's going to get pooped out,
Yeah.
right? Because it's a slow release protein, the amount of time it spends in the intestine is limited because it's the natural cycle of the dog.
Yeah.
The amount of protein that it releases and the intestine can absorb is less. It's a slow release protein.
Wow.
So when you feed 50 grams of chicken versus 50 grams of paneer, your dog is actually going to get about half or 55% of the protein. So I need to feed 100 grams, 2x of
Yeah.
protein of
For the
paneer
dog to get that.
for the dog in the digestive cycle for the
Yeah.
intestine to be able to pull out the amount of protein, or else I have to then give a protein supplement.
Got it. It's really technical stuff, yeah.
Well, I've been doing this for 12 years.
I know, and I'm just like, my God. Ishmeet, is canine nutrition separate from veterinary knowledge?
So yes, I have a lot of people who ask me that question, right?
Yeah.
When you talk about canine nutrition, they say, have you studied veterinarian medicine?
Yeah.
You don't need to, right? Canine nutrition is different from veterinarian sciences.
Okay.
The thing in India is, with talking to all the vets who we work with and we speak to,
Yeah.
is that, India has predominantly been an agricultural country.
Yes.
The veterinarian colleges are again government colleges,
Yeah.
right? So the syllabus has been set up by the government.
Yeah.
80% of what veterinarians learn today in colleges is
Yeah.
bovine science
Correct.
for cows, buffaloes, those kind, because that was what was required to push the agricultural push for India.
And it's
Right?
still the same?
It's still the same. It's like hotel management. What I studied 25 years ago is still the curriculum today, and it was the curriculum 40 years ago
In India?
in India.
This is
So-
only in India?
In India. In India,
Okay.
right? So a lot of the vets I know actually self-educate themselves
Yes, I know.
for small animals.
Correct.
Right? For small animals. But canine nutrition is something different. And
It's not the same.
And what I've got to hear from the vets who I've spoken to is that they aren't really taught canine nutrition there.
Yes, so have
So
I.
when you go to a vet, some vet who has a lot of knowledge about canine nutrition is somebody who's really caring about what they want to do for dogs and has self-studied and come with that education along with their veterinarian science
Yeah.
background to be able to tell you what's good for dogs.
Got it.
But they are literally two different things apart. Like for instance, my Ingrid, our chief nutritionist, who's Dutch and she's based in Netherlands.
Yeah.
She's a microbiologist by profession.
Wow.
Right? And the same way how I started cooking for Harley because I didn't find good food in the market.
Yeah.
She had her dog and her dog had a liver problem and no
Wow.
vet could solve it. And she said, if I'm going into biochemistry and solving it for humans, why can't I do it for dogs?
Yeah.
But the big part is to get bringing back to the answer to the question that you
Yeah.
asked. 60% of her students are vets,
Oh, how wonderful.
practicing vets who realize that they do not know much about canine nutrition and
Yeah.
want to learn more. So, and if it's, that's exactly what, the proof's in the pudding, right? If a veterinarian itself is becoming a student
Yeah.
in canine nutrition, you
Yeah.
get to understand what it is.
Do you tie up with vets for your therapeutic meals? Which do you feel is the highest one that gets called for?
No, so Now, there are two ways that a company would tie up with veterinarians. One is, do I go to the veterinarian to formulate my meal? Right?
Yeah.
Yes, darling. Yes, Lana. I agree with you. Yes. So we don't tie up with them for formulating the meals because we have Ingrid.
Yeah.
Because we have Ingrid. But yes, we go to the veterinarians when we talk about the therapeutic food.
Yes.
Right? A lot of the veterinarians between Bangalore, between Bombay, and now we'll soon start the retail bit in Delhi as well.
Yeah.
Really appreciate the kind of food that we're doing.
Okay.
The ones which do the best are the gastro
Yeah.
and the renal.
Yeah,
And the
I would
renal.
think so.
Now, the renal also is like we were talking. That being a pet parent and having friends who are pet parents, right?
Yeah.
You realize
Yeah.
what the actual need is. So, in renal food, the problem is that the dog's appetite is very low.
Yeah,
right?
and your
So
tip
one is one is that there is a kibble. Then there is what you get in the cans, which are the pates, what we call the
Yes.
pates, which are heavier in fats and very dense. So again, difficult
Yeah.
to digest.
Yeah.
And then there is the home style food.
Yeah.
So we're the only brand actually in the country who's doing therapeutic food in the wet food format.
Okay.
Everybody else is international.
Yeah.
Right. And we've like for renal, because we know that the dogs eat less.
Yeah.
It's a pack of 3 pouches. So if you open one and your dog doesn't eat it, it's not that you wasted the entire pouch, which is
Yeah.
what would happen with other brands that you buy.
Yeah.
But you can actually keep it longer because I know the cost and how much we spend on our dogs, right?
Yeah.
And then if you're going to open a pack and your dog eats just one meal and you end up throwing it away and it's in hundreds and hundreds of rupees,
Yeah.
it does pinch. I mean,
So
let's be honest, it
yeah,
does
of course
pinch.
it does, yeah.
So we try being a pet parent and then going to the other side is I'm trying to do my level best to ensure that I can give a pet parent what the pet parent needs.
Yes.
Right? So that's how we do it. Also, what's something interesting is the hypoallergenic meal that we do.
Okay.
Right? So so what happens when in a hypoallergenic meal is the body does not break down proteins,
Yeah.
right? And if it recognizes it as a protein, it kind of has an allergy towards it.
Yeah.
So what people do is they break down the protein enzyme to such a small level,
Yeah.
laboratorically, in a
lab.
format wherein the body doesn't recognize it as protein.
Oh.
But there is 2 types of hypoallergenic food which people don't know about.
Okay.
The second type is what we do is with a novel protein.
Okay.
Is a protein that a dog is generally not been exposed to. So the allergy is basically because of what the dog has been exposed to.
Got it.
Right? And another myth to bust, since you're talking about, is allergy tests are useless.
That's another thing.
They
yeah.
are useless.
Really
Useless.
I
It will
remember once
only
you had
pick
so
up
many-
it will only pick up the antibodies which is in the body, which is in the dog because you're feeding the dog that. It will not tell you what your dog is allergic to.
Ah.
Right? So don't
Watson was on
don't do-
gastrointestinal low-fat
Yes.
food for 8 years.
So
of his
don't do an allergy test. It doesn't make sense. Rather than that is do the elimination diet.
life. Okay.
So what we do in our novel protein, we use pork. Because pork is not a very common meat, but it's one of the best meats you can give dogs.
Really?
It's a beautiful meat. It has all the benefits of extra energy, extra calories, high protein as red meats, right?
Yeah.
But again, when we think of pork, we
Yeah.
think of the vindaloo and the chops of the world,
Yeah.
where there is 60% of fat and
Correct.
40% of meat.
Yeah.
We do a 90-10.
Okay.
We use 90% of meat and
Okay.
10% of fat.
Got it.
So the meat is super rich in proteins, minerals, vitamins, everything.
Wow.
So it's really the unsung hero of dog food.
Wow. So in these last X number of years, have vets got in touch with you saying we'd like, or have people got in touch with you saying our vet has said we should put our dog on therapeutic food? Has that happened?
Yes, it has happened. What's also happening now is, like we said, that the discerning pet parent is
Yeah,
the profile
stepping
is
in.
changing, right?
Yes.
I'm surprised to see that there are certain parts of the country where we haven't done an event or we haven't done a promotion, or nothing, whose actually pet parents are ordering our therapeutic food.
Really?
So I call them up, like a Calcutta, like a Bhubaneswar, Meerut, right?
Nice.
Jammu, Udaipur. We've got people coming in asking for therapeutic food from there.
Wow.
And I call them up saying, thank you for the order, of course, but how did you hear about us?
Yeah.
He says, no, we've been researching online.
Oh, nice.
Because our vet has told us that, yes, our dog needs like a gastro meal or a hypo meal or an obesity management meal or a mobility meal, etc., etc.
Nice.
But we need to know, but we want to do and figure out what it is. We don't want to buy the regular kibble which is available.
Very good.
So it's
It's nice, it's
amazing. It's
changing.
heartwarming that pet
Yeah.
parents are actually taking
Stepping
so
up.
much care about their
That's
dogs.
fabulous. That is
Yeah.
just amazing. We're going to do a little bit of a rapid fire. What is the most common mistakes pet parents make with their dog's diet?
Buy processed dry food.
Okay. What human foods are safe for dogs to eat?
All meats.
Yeah.
Fish is very good, which is underrated. Broken wheat. Vegetables like beetroot, great for the liver. Karela.
Really?
Great for a dog with a gastro problem.
No way. I
We
love
have
Karela.
we have Karela in our gastro meal.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Karela is
Sweet
what?
potato.
Karela is what in English?
Bitter gourd.
Bitter.
Bitter
Yeah,
gourd.
yeah, yeah, correct.
Sweet potato.
Yes,
Great
fantastic.
for dogs.
Yeah.
Great for
How much water should a dog drink daily?
as much as the dog wants to.
Okay, there's no limit.
There's no limit. We don't have a limit of
Yeah.
how much water we should drink.
Can you feed a dog too many treats?
Yes. Yes. And the problem with that is that all the treats use ingredients even worse than
Oh,
the
God.
processed kibble.
Oh, God.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So give fresh treats, do the frozen gajar.
Fresh, no. Give treats, give packaged treats, but read the label.
How do you tell if a dog is overweight?
So physically, 2-3 signs. If you stand and look at the dog there,
Yeah.
a dog is not meant to have parallel lines. It's not supposed to be straight lines.
Okay.
After the rib cage, there has to be a little curve in.
Okay.
Okay. When you look at the dog from the side, stomach has to be curving up towards the hind legs. And you should be able to see the last 2 ribs against the skin.
If you don't, that's an obese dog.
Not obese, it's overweight.
Overweight.
Because again, depending on the breed. I mean, like with a husky and with
Yeah.
that, you will not see the
Yeah.
rib, but you've got to be able to feel it.
Got it.
So there are multiple ways to look at that.
What are signs for food allergies in dogs?
Itching,
Yes, first.
right? So, but again, with itching is people ask me that, oh, my dog is itching, so there's something wrong. So another great tip for pet parents is use your nail and scratch the part that is itching or
The
that
dog.
is, or the dog, of course, on your
if-
dog. If there's
yeah,
a spot, scratch it and smell. If it smells wet, it's bacterial. If it's dry, it's topical. So if it's dry, it's an external, something in the house, mites or something that is causing that. But if it's bacterial, it's from the food.
Got
So
it.
just because your dog has an itch spot doesn't mean
it's-
you need to change the diet.
Because I used to, because with Watson, because he had a gastro thing. Poor guy, he'd been on multiple food brands and instantly, like, he used to break out into hives.
Yeah.
His tummy used to go. He used to get that loosies with
Yes.
that gelatin thing.
Yeah,
It was
yeah, yeah.
horrible. And instantly after eating, he used to get itchy. So I thought that is one sign
Yes, of
that
course.
instant itching.
Instant itching is there. Of course, the poop, every pet parent knows, has
Hopefully.
done a PhD on the poop.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
whether it's there. And of course, what you'll also see is around the snout, the nose,
Yeah.
you will start seeing patches or
yeah.
losing hair. That is also
A sign for food
a sign for
allergies,
food
huh?
allergies.
Now, if you had to give 3 tips for animal welfare shelters, community caregivers
Correct.
on cost-effective, wholesome nutrition for our community dogs, what would that be?
It's a little contrary, unfortunately, at some
Yeah, I
point,
know.
because when you talk about wholesome nutrition, there is always going to be a cost associated to it.
Yes.
But we understand it's welfare, so you want to keep the cost as low as
Yes.
possible, right? I would also say look at alternative meats. Not necessarily chicken is the best.
What else?
Buff meat, pork, right? Like in buff,
Okay.
what will happen is if you get 300, it's about 300, between which part of the country you are, anywhere from about 280, 300 to about 350 rupees a kilo.
Okay.
But that 1 kilo versus that 1 kilo of
Chicken.
chicken, you get more yield in this meat,
Got it.
right? Again, red meat is higher in protein,
Yeah.
higher in energy,
Okay.
right? It's good, higher in fat also. Now, all these dogs are deprived.
Yes.
All these fat dogs are anyway malnourished. It's
Yes.
not that it's a perfect dog
Yeah.
and now I'm changing the meat so they're going to become fatter. No,
Yeah,
the
no.
poor things don't have any fat.
Yeah.
They don't have anything.
Yeah.
So one is
Red
try and
meats.
see if you can use red meats, right? Like you buy this chicken pet cuts, what they have, which is all that
I
stuff.
mean, they give the panjas and they give the heads and beaks. I'm a bit worried about that.
See, the thing is that while you would not want to do that for your dog at home, it's still better than what they're scavenging off rotten meat on the off
But
the road.
still,
So
you know what? I with that, what my concern is that at least our dogs at home, if something
Correct.
happens, we can rush them to a vet.
yes, with them
If you give
with
a
the stray
street
you
dog
can't.
a bone,
You can't do it.
no
No bones, no
yeah,
bones,
but
no
like
bones,
that,
definitely,
a lot
yes.
of feeders feed bones,
Yes,
right? Now,
yes, yes,
if you
yes.
just give it, or I mean, I've been at Chandigarh club, the Gymkhana once, and there was
Correct.
my friends were like, "हड्डियां साथ में रखो, फिर दो,
कुत्ते को
सारे
देना
कुत्ते को दे दो," and I'm like, "No,
नहीं, you can't do that.
And they're like, no, street dog,
हाँ,
it's
क्या
hardy
फर्क
and
पड़ता है?
all. This hardy street dog. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
But that is someone who's not trying to harm the
Correct.
dog.
Correct.
That's someone collecting the bones of everybody's plates
Correct.
and saying, I'm going to wash it and give it to the dog. That's
Another big tip for feeders and welfares, especially. See, now welfares also are run by an NGO.
Yes.
Right. So there's a board. There's some kind of people who are working for them.
Yes.
Earlier, CSR for multinational companies was basically towards educate a child or do give something here or give something there.
Yeah.
Now, I believe that even animal care has come under the CSR.
Yes,
bandwidth.
animal welfare has.
So people in the welfare should reach out to these multinationals and try and get that CSR fund for their dogs.
Yeah.
Right. From that, predominantly try and give your dog a supplement.
Yeah.
Right. Give the stray dog a supplement. See, what happens is a supplement may seem costlier than the meat.
Yeah.
But don't forget the supplement has everything packed into a few grams.
Yeah.
Right. So it's what was available in a kilo is probably available in a few micrograms.
Yeah.
Right. So you need to put less.
Yeah.
But again, is to basically get the health of the dog up.
Yeah.
Right. To improve the health. Within shelters, like you say, feeding times are very important.
Yeah.
Right. You need to be able to give them that 12-hour, or at
There has
least
to
a
be
10 to 14-hour window.
Between
If
meals.
it's 12 hours is ideal, or 10 and 14 is probably
these
the best.
5
But these 5
ghante
hours, the dog will not eat.
Yeah.
The welfare doesn't have refrigeration system, so
No,
you
they
can't
don't.
keep the food there. If the
They
dog
chuck
is not
it.
eaten, it is chucked.
Or just lying there.
Or it's lying there. Plus the food anyway is, if you're buying those soup cuts and all, it's anyway substandard.
Yeah.
Right? Or so it's anyway not going to last what normal food would.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd probably say, And of course, sterilization.
Yeah.
You control the number of dogs, you will control the problem. You will have less mouths to feed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's very important.
That's perfect. So if you had, for the pet parents that are watching this, if you had 3 tips to share with pet parents with regards to their dog's nutrition
Okay.
that they can activate today, what are those 3 tips?
So one is definitely use some oils and superfoods like we spoke about. Coconut oil, olive oil, moringa powder, turmeric, but the high curcumin value which is there. Tulsi powder, right?
Yeah.
Use something like that, which is always good.
Yeah.
It just stabilizes gut health. If you're giving your dog food at home, try not to change it up too often.
Yeah.
But change it up. So don't let your dog get used to a particular one. But if you're changing it up, let the next diet last for 3 or 4 weeks and then go to another diet.
Got it.
Don't say today I feed you a biryani, tomorrow I feed you a roti,
Yeah.
day after I feed you bread, because the system takes time to kind of develop and get used to it.
Yeah.
Curd is great, right?
Probiotic.
To cool you down, especially in the summers,
Yeah.
right? Avoid egg yolks in the summer. It's again heaty,
Yeah.
right? So while egg is a great protein,
Yeah.
avoid it in the summers.
Got it.
Right? With talking about food, bone broth, right? When you boil the chicken, don't throw away the water. When you even debone the chicken, keep the bones in the fridge, right? And then put some water and pressure cook the hell out of it.
Oh, you'll get more
15,
broth.
20. You get, because all the marrow and everything of the bone comes out into the broth, right?
Yeah.
Summertime, take the broth, freeze it in ice cube trays.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
Correct. If you don't want to do that, if you're worried about ice being,
Mixed up.
soup melting all over the house,
Yeah.
carrot sticks.
Yes.
Freeze
Freezer.
them.
Yeah.
Freeze them and give it to your dogs, right? Other tips.
I mean, I'm guessing everyone watching this is probably going to go and look at the dog food packaging in their house.
seriously.
Consultations is a good start.
Yes.
Maybe get
yes,
yourself a
yes.
canine nutritionist and you can run that past your vet. But
Correct.
try and work in tandem with them.
Correct.
It's a good space to be in. This chat, it was amazing. It was lovely learning. I learned so much. I mean, there's so much. I'm one of those research people.
Please,
I'm going to be
please.
in there. And
Google it.
they're like,
Google
oh
it.
my God,
Google it.
there's...
Read the label.
Read
the label. Read the label.
Read the label. Seriously.
And
Where's
again,
that
it's not the turmeric, it's the curcumin in the turmeric.
that this haldi in India really needs to come down. But yeah.
Like you said, you're an honorary Sikh, and
Yeah.
I'm obviously a Sikh and a half Parsi as well. But if you look at my arms, right, that's Guru Gobind Singh Ji,
Wow.
right, our 10th Guru who established the Khalsa Panth, and that's Hali's paw, right? And you know, when you ask me, there's a reason dog is a palindrome for God, right? Dogs teach you to live. I mean, there are no materialistic benefits, right? No clothes, no nothing. They will love unconditionally. How much ever you shout and scream at them, they'll still wag their tail for you,
Wow.
right? And all they want is 2 meals and a place to sleep.
Yeah.
And what does God tell you to do? Love your neighbor. Don't fight. Don't have materialistic connections,
Yeah.
right? So somehow dogs are very close to God,
Yeah.
right? And for me, both are very important to me as a person.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming from Bangalore
My
and
pleasure.
being
My
here
pleasure,
for this. It
Shivani.
was great.
My
Thank you
pleasure.
so much.
Thank you for actually, having this podcast as a channel for, pet parents to be able to learn more, right?
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
today the big thing is that there is information available, but how do I process
Assimilate.
the information? How do I absorb the information, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, even though we're shooting with cameras, the fact that somebody driving to work in beautiful Bombay or Bangalore traffic, spending an hour over there, can listen to this podcast
Yeah.
on audio and still learn so much
Yeah.
is great, right? So thank
Yes.
you also for getting this
Yes.
out to everybody.
I know. Let's help all the doggies.
Yes,
Yeah.
healthier and happier.
Healthier and happier doggies in our country.
Healthier
That'll
and
be
happier.
lovely.
That's-
Where can people follow you on online?
So of course our website is harleyscorner.com. Our Insta handle is at harleyscorner.in.
Okay.
IN. We want to be very proud Indians, so
Okay.
.in.
Right.
And of course my Nom the Plume on Instagram is the dog chef.
The dog chef.
_dog_chef.
Thank you so much for this. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please, if you have questions, leave it in the comments section. Please like, share, and subscribe to this podcast and share it with people you think it will be beneficial for. And see you on the next one.